Those of us who live in this area have a lot of advantages that I think we really don't take advantage of. Virginia is still about 95% family farms. We bring a lot of those farms to your table for you. And one of the things, two things that I had to do actually before I could deliver real whole foods, as opposed to the other kind of whole foods, to people was I needed to get a slaughterhouse. It took me 10 years to buy a slaughterhouse. Thank you, Packer Cartel. And the other thing was we have probably the only organic certified stone ground mill in the country. We don't know that, but the certifiers, our certifiers, Oregon Health, and they don't know of another one. So when you get Katie's wonderful rye bread with the cranberries and stuff in it, not only is the rye organic and local, but it's stone ground. And does everybody know why there's such a difference about stone grinding as opposed to steel grinding? What's stone grinding? A seed, like Katie says, is made out of a germ, which is really the nutrition that the little new plant needs. And it's protected by kind of a skin on it, which is the bran. All right, there are a couple of other layers, but basically it's those two things. When you run that seed through a high pressure, high temperature steel mill, it expresses or drives out the natural oil in the seed. Why is there oil in a seed? Because fat is still the most calorie intensive form of energy. Okay, you can get by weight, by mass, more energy, calories, out of fat than you can out of carbohydrates and protein. So because the plant wants all of that energy to make the new plant, the germ has a very high oil content. You can see that because you buy safflower oil or you buy corn oil or you buy, other kind, rapeseed oil. That is the original plant's food for the new plant that will come up the following year. And because of the high heat and the high pressure, that is all driven out, and that's how you get your bottles of Wesson oil. Okay? When you have a stone wheel, which is about 4 feet in diameter, they're about 10 inches thick, and they're run over a similar bedstone, the water power really never heats anything up because it's not running that fast. There's not that much friction. In fact, in a stone ground mill, if you start to smell something burning, you're doing it wrong. So not only is there much less pressure than there is between those hydraulic steel rollers, the flour is being ground at an extremely, that wheel probably makes a rotation, maybe 2 rotations a second. So it's a very, very slow process. And all of that beautiful, tasty, okay, you all know if you eat meat without fat, there's no flavor. All of the flavor in the grain is in, 100% of it is in that beautiful oil, okay? And it's that oil that carries the characteristic of the grain in terms of its flavor. So if you take that out, that's why our flour tastes like wallpaper paste. And European flour doesn't taste like wallpaper paste because they don't do that. But the stone grinding, when you see this on the bag, you're assured of something that A, has not lost its nutritional content because it's all been expressed out, and 2, is going to taste just absolutely as it's going to taste, full stop. So we have a water-powered stone ground mill. There was a mill on that site since pre-1750. George Washington's parcel was right across the river. On the old maps, you can see it. And we do grind, and on April 7th, Katie has set up, and she has to, by the way, she has to bribe the millers. And I want to put in a plug, please bring your children. I will tell you that making cider, grinding apples and grinding grain are 2 of the most fun things I've done as an adult. I might tell you something about my life, but food is my life. Farming is my life, and how that food is treated after it comes off my farm is my reason for living. I respect it more than you can possibly imagine. Katie has to bribe the millers, who are these 3 old guys, with her bread. That is my sole currency for getting these guys to come to this mill and run this mill is Katie's bread. But on April 7th, stay tuned, watch the website. I'm not quite sure what time it's going to be.
We'll put it on Facebook.
Yeah,
put it on the website.
We have a whole day set aside for our customers, and you can talk to the millers. And one of the things that I just want to put a plug in for people who would like to become millers. One point I wanted to change my name to Miller. A miller in the old days could pick up a handful of flour and taste it and tell you what the protein content was. And it's that protein content that's basically the difference between, say, bread flour and pastry flour. Pastry flour has a very low protein gluten content as opposed to a strong flour, which is a very high gluten content. And they could taste the difference in the protein content. They could tell whether or not the wheat was ripe. So in going to these commercial kind of processing facilities, we've lost a lot of that, and I want to encourage everybody here to bring your kids. I try to drag, my nephews and everybody I can, so that we get young people back into this, because right now it's like old cars. It's just like a bunch of old guys, and they're not going to be here forever. And so we really do need to pass this stuff on, and I can also guarantee you it is a ton of fun to put the grain and watch it come through and put it into the bags, and it's really a kind of a visceral, sort of very organic connection to where we come from. I'm also a metalsmith, and I find that another one of those very human kind of things that we've been doing so long that there's just a fundamental pleasure in it that I haven't found in much else. So I want to encourage you guys to come, bring your children, bring people who might want to become, Miller wannabes. I'm a Horner wannabe, I'm a Hornaby, to the mill and try to become a part of that process. We're very, very lucky. We have 2 grinding mills. There's the Burl Morgan mill in Millwood, and there's the Gentle Harvest mill in Berryville. And they're very different. They're very different water-powered mills, which you'll learn when you come. But here's my too long plug for our beautiful mill.
Millwood. So do you have to have a running stream?
The Locke mill
Yeah,
mill
you have
in
to.
Millwood.
You have to have 2 things. Interesting thing that I'm just going to tell you anyway.
No, it's okay.
Why do we have so many mills in this area? Does anybody know? There's tons. You can have water and you can't have a mill.
The Quakers.
Flour is very hygroscopic, meaning that it attracts moisture from the air. So the big grain regions of the Ohio Valley and the Shenandoah Valley were separated by necessity back then because of the big population centers who used all of the flour. So what is really special about the Piedmont, it is the last fall of ground before the huge alluvial coastal plain. So you have to have a fall of ground, meaning that the water has to be dropping, and it's roughly about a foot of drop per foot of wheel. Our mill has a 25-foot steel metal iron wheel from Virginia. And so all these grains would come on these big, huge mule-drawn things. They would hit the Piedmont, which was the last place that they could grind the flour before steam. Steam changes all of this because then you can move the grinding facilities right next to the population centers because you just needed water. You didn't need fall of ground. So when you look at this area and you go by, there's how many Carter's mills there are. There's Parker's mills. There's 29 bazillion. There's Colvin Run Mill, which is another beautiful place. There's one in Aldi. I did a map that's available at the mill. Within a 5-mile stretch in the Shenandoah, I counted at 1.20 mills. So it was a huge business. Millers were very wealthy people. I mean, for working people. I mean, they weren't huge landowners, but for the bourgeois class, they were very, very wealthy, and they got the best flour. But it was the last place you could bring the grain to get transported in the shortest length of time into the big cities like Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and Alexandria.
Great. You guys should come out. It's really an amazing thing to watch. And the 3 guys who run it are so passionate about it. They can talk about, like, a lot of it they've made themselves because there's only 1 or 2 guys that are able to create the pieces to put it all back together. And so they've made it all. John, I think, is the one of only 4 people that in the United States that can sharpen the millstones. It's a dying art, and so love to have you out.